Hello my dear friends, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I've got the most exciting video of the year for you today. It's all my favorite reads of 2023 that I've picked up, and it's all books that have made an impression on me somehow. They've made me feel, they've made me cry, they've made me happy and sad, and they've made me part of their world, and they've made me fall in love with all of the characters within these books. So it's basically all books that I've been recommending throughout the year that I couldn't just stop thinking about. I was obsessing over these books, and I definitely want you to pick them up as well if you want to. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of the 16 books that I just could not include on this list. It's a bit of a weird number, I know. Everyone is doing like top 10, top 15, 23 of 23, and I'm doing 16, which is weird, but it's just all books that belong on this list. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump in with the first book that is part of an interconnected series that follows the same characters. So for this, I've chosen only one book, even though I've given more of the books within the series 5 stars. I'm just going to recommend my favorite out of the 5. It's Twist by Lucia Franco. You have to read all of the books, by the way, because really we're following the same couple, and this is the 4th book within the series. And I think that I've picked this book because within the 4th book we see the most development for both of the characters. We see the most self-reflection for them, and we see the most growth for them as individuals, but also as a couple. So that's why it's my favorite book. But to give you a quick kind of trope synopsis of the books, we've got a coach-athlete sports romance that focuses on gymnastics. We've got a very young and impressionable gymnast who wants to go to the Olympics, and she falls in love with her gymnastics coach, who is Russian. His name is Kova, her name is Ria, and they have a very turbulent, very toxic relationship together. There is a very big age gap. It's quite toxic, quite taboo. So please look up the trigger warnings if you're going to pick this up. I was just sucked into their story, and I could not put the books down when I was reading them. I did a whole vlog on them, and I was just absolutely in bits and pieces when I was reading these books. So they definitely belong on this list, and I'm picking Twist as my favorite. So I read Liz Stamford for the first time this year. I read Mile High at the start of the year, and I gave that one 4.5 stars. And I absolutely loved it, but I have got the other 2 books within the series in this list, so I decided to just leave it at the 2 because I could not put The Right Move down when I picked it up. This book is so special. This book is a sports romance. The hero is a basketball player, and he's very focused on his career. The heroine is his sister's best friend. She's a stewardess for this hockey team, and she needs a place to stay because she has recently gotten out of a very serious relationship, and she has basically become homeless because the guy she was dating has kept the apartment. And the hero's sister, she proposes that they start living together until she finds a different place to stay. He reluctantly agrees, and also because he has a bit of a predicament with his work, he proposes that they also fake date. So there is a fake dating situation, forced proximity situation, and what everyone now has come to know as quiet love. Ryan Shea, the hero, he is the epitome of what quiet love stands for. He basically is showing his love in little gestures, things that are everyday things that he can do for the heroine so that her day becomes lighter, brighter, and better. And it just is the most romantic kind of love. So this is a very deeply romantic book, and I believe that everyone who has read it has noticed the same. You just get kind of goosebumps and the feels when you read how much thought he puts into these little gestures. So yeah, this one is an absolute favorite. Next up is a book that I've talked about a lot this year. It's Finding Gene Kelly by Tori Jean. I discovered it because of the wonderful Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. This book is a foodie romance, kind of enemies to lovers. It's set in Paris for most of the book. And we've got representation for a chronic illness, for endometriosis. We've got the hero and heroine who used to know each other as children, and they developed a bit of a rivalry, or kind of like an enemies to lovers situation, or an enemy situation when they were teenagers because of something that the hero did. And basically she starts to live in Paris. She is a baker, so she is trying to live her best life in Paris until the hero one day shows up, and we immediately notice that he's a pining hero, that he's very smitten with her, and that he definitely wants to be there for her. He knows of her health struggles, so he is the best kind of hero as well. We've got a bit of a grovel going on. We've got a lot of worshipping going on within this book. I found that this book is also very deeply romantic. So I think that there is a theme with the books that I've chosen this year, that most of them really have a heavy load of romance within them, because that's basically what I've been missing very much within books throughout the past couple of years maybe. So yeah, Finding Gene Kelly is a superb book, and I definitely recommend it. Next up, we've got another very romantic book in my opinion. The book is called Mr. Romance by Lisa Raven. This book came on my radar because of the wonderful Bree from In Love and Words, and it's a very deeply romantic book. I love the kinds of romances where one of the characters is very reluctant, or very kind of they've lost their hope and faith in love. They kind of have become grumpy and almost like very reluctant to fall in love, and then the other person is very deeply romantic, and they really believe in what love stands for and what it can do to you and for you in life, and how they want to convince the other person that they should fall in love, that they should give love a chance basically. And we've got exactly this scenario within this book, where the heroine is a journalist, and she's tasked with finding out who this Mr. Romance is that everyone has been raving about. He is this guy who is taking women on very specific kinds of dates, very romantic kind of dates, and she's trying to find out if it's kind of like a hoax or whether he's the real deal. And when she meets him, he definitely takes her by surprise, let me put it like that. And it's a very, again, deeply romantic book, and yeah, it was wonderful. Next up, we've got the spiciest book on this list. I definitely needed to include it because it just left a very big impression on me despite it being very spicy. The book is called The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan. I absolutely love Nikki Sloan's books. I love all of the books within this specific series. It's a standalone series, and this is the fourth book, I believe, within this series. And it's just a wonderful enemies to lovers book. I have had experiences with enemies to lovers books where you don't really know why they're enemies in the first place. It's more like a dislike to love situation, but within this book, they're genuine enemies. They cannot stand each other. They have a situation at the start of the book that leaves them both homeless because of what happened between them. And they are looking for a job, both of them are looking for a place to stay, and both of them see this ad for playing a part in an adult entertainment film. Both of them apply for the job, and both of them get it. And both of them are going to live in the same place, work together on an adult entertainment movie. So you can already see where this is going, where they're true enemies, but they have forced proximity. They need to start getting along for the sake of their job and their work situation. And they start to get to know each other in very many biblical ways and very many different ways, let me put it like that. But it was just such a fun time. But also you see the growth of the characters within the book. They start off kind of childish, and then definitely develop and grow throughout the book because of their interactions also with their colleagues. And I absolutely love this one. The next book is one by an author that I discovered this year, probably because of Caitlin from The Love Librarian and also Ava from Ava Romance Books. I've heard them talk about this author a lot, so I picked up two of the books by this author, and I really loved Next to You the most. This is by Hannah Bonham Young. The book centers on two friends who, basically the guy, he has always had a thing for the woman, and he is in the friend zone category. She is kind of lost when it comes to her life. She doesn't know what she wants to do. She is kind of on a mental health break. And during one drunken night on her birthday, she decides she's going to purchase a school bus and renovate it to become her mobile home. She doesn't know how to do that. So she enlists a friend to help her out, so her best friend to help her out, because he's actually like a car mechanic, so he knows a lot about what to do with the bus. And they have, again, a lot of forced proximity. They're obviously friends already, so they have a mutual love and respect because of that. But he's definitely pining for her. He is a worshipping hero as well. And then when the sparks start to fly, it's scorching hot. I really, really love this book. I felt a lot for the main character, the female protagonist within the story. I really had a deep connection to her. I even cried during this book, so it definitely left me feeling a lot of feelings at the end, and I definitely loved it. A debut novel that came out this year that I absolutely loved and I absolutely recommend to everyone is Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I absolutely love the cover of it as well. Both the American version as well as this one is just so pretty and gorgeous, and the little flowers that are here are just very much what the book stands for. We've got the hero and heroine who have a past and present situation going on within the book. The past chapters are told from his perspective, while the present chapters are told from her perspective. We see in the past how they developed their relationship when they used to be together, and how essentially she broke his heart. And then in the present chapters, we see how they need to work together on this very high-profile wedding. He's a florist, she's a wedding planner, and it's kind of the event that's going to make or break her career. So they have forced proximity because of that, and they kind of need to rehash what has happened between them, and he kind of needs to help her out with her situation. And it's such a gorgeously wonderful setting, first of all, within the book, the whole wedding. And then the relationship between the two of them, how it bloomed in the first place, and how we see that there's definitely unresolved feelings within the situation in the present chapters. I just love this. I love this. I absolutely ate it up, and I definitely recommend it. Just after I finished Forget Me Not, I picked up my next read that was an absolute hit, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book, I actually read The Dead Romantics last year, and it was quite a surprise to me. I gave that one 5 stars. It was a favorite of last year, and I was not surprised this year that The 7-Year Slip really worked for me. I really enjoyed the magical realism, the little touches of magic that are found within Ashley Poston's books. This book centers on our heroine who inherits an apartment that has this magical ability to transport her to the past. And within her past, in the apartment, she meets the hero who at that time is an aspiring chef. They immediately have a connection, they immediately hit it off, but then once she gets back to the present, obviously she has this predicament of not knowing him in present time. So how is she going to be in a relationship in the present if she doesn't know him in the present? And then the two worlds collide at some point, and she meets him again. But he is a very different person. He has gone through a lot of changes in the 7 years that have passed, and it's just such a wonderful kind of a second chance romance. I absolutely love this one. It's not a secret that last year my favorite book of the year was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and I absolutely was certain, was sure, was 100% sure that yours truly, the follow-up to that book, is going to be a favorite of mine this year as well, and I was not wrong. This book is such a special book. Again, I found it deeply romantic because of a certain aspect within the book that I'm going to explain in a second. We've got our hero and heroine who are both doctors in this hospital. She has been a doctor for a while at that hospital, and she wants to become like a head of ER, I think, within the hospital. And then he comes in, he's a new guy in this hospital, and he is considered for the position as well, so she's kind of bitter about that. And they also have this very weird run-in where he makes a mistake and kind of lashes out at her, which makes a very bad impression on her. And he feels so bad about what happened because he actually is dealing with anxiety that he decides to write her a letter. And I'm a sucker for romances where there's kind of communication via letters, emails, or something like that. I absolutely love that. And that aspect within the book just made them feel so close together when they started to communicate in that way, because they got to know each other without the pressure of them having to communicate face to face. And the story progresses and something happens because of which he asks her to fake date him. So there is a fake dating aspect to this book as well. I absolutely fell in love with the hero within this book. He was so relatable to me, and the heroine as well. Their banter was just off the charts. Like, the chemistry was felt, it was palpable for me. So I absolutely recommend this one if you haven't picked it up yet. By the way, I'm just so excited to talk about these books that I feel like I've said absolutely wonderful, amazing, like 1,000 times already in this video. Apologies for all the repetition, but it's just how my mind works when I'm hyped up. I just tend to use the best adjectives that pop up into my head. The next book that I read that I absolutely loved, again here with the absolutely, is Ali Hazelwood's Love Theoretically. I've read the other books by this author in the previous years and I love them as well, but for some reason I think I connected to this one the most. The setting of the book is again within STEM. That is kind of the signature setting for Ali Hazelwood's books. We've got an enemies to lovers situation going on for sure. We've got a fake dating scenario going on within this book, but not between the hero and heroine. It's actually between the heroine and his brother. And it's just such a good time, this book. And I don't know what it was, but I was also relating to the hero very much within this book. It was such an interesting relationship between the two of them, because they have this dual relationship of them being familiar with each other because of her relationship supposedly with his brother, but also within the fact that they need to work together. It's a very interesting read, a very much a romantic read as well, and I absolutely ate it up. The next one is kind of controversial because everyone is divided on that book. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people were disappointed by it. I loved it. I felt so connected to it. I thought that it was so well done because it doesn't only focus on romance, but it also focuses on relationship between friends, between found family. And the book that I'm talking about is actually the winner of the Goodreads Choice Awards, and that's Happy Place by Emily Henry. I don't know, I think that this is kind of a personal, subjective thing. I just connected really well with this book. It was one that, it's a second chance romance, by the way, if you haven't picked this up. It's a second chance romance between people who were friends first. They were within this friend group. They were kind of afraid to get into a relationship because they didn't know if they were to split up, what would happen to their friend group. So they were reluctant into getting into the relationship. But once they did start to date, everyone was assuming that they would be long game, you know, that they would kind of get married and stay together. But we find out within the start of the book that they have actually split up and that they need to make this vacation trip with their friends, and their friends don't know that they have broken up. And they're kind of afraid to tell their friends because they don't know what that's going to do to their friend group. So yeah, for me, it was a very satisfying read because you have such problems within real life. And I want to read sometimes not only about the romantic aspects of a relationship, but also of the struggles and conflicts and how do you overcome these. And yeah, it was a special book to me. The next two books are back to back by the same author. I picked them up quite in short succession of one another. The first one is a marriage in trouble kind of second chance romance by Joel E. Ann. It's called For Lucy. It's a very heavily emotional book that deals with loss of a child, so please look up the trigger warnings for this one as well. It's one that we see also past and present chapters where we see how the couple fell in love, how they got married, and then in the present chapters we see how they are co-parenting and coexisting while they have broken up because of something tragic that happened within their family. So it's a very emotional read. I just could not include it here because it just made such an impact on me, especially because I'm a parent as well. I don't think that if you're a parent and if you read this book that you can be left kind of unbothered or unemotional. So yeah, this one is a special one as well. And the next up is another emotional read by Julianne, and that one is Before Us. I think this one was even more special to me because it just has a very interesting premise. The book starts off with our heroine going on this job interview to be a cleaner at this house. The house is occupied by a couple who are dealing with the wife having terminal cancer. They want to hire someone who is cleaning the house so that they can spend the most time together without being bothered with, the duties at home. And she fits right in. She immediately forms a very good relationship with the wife. And the wife basically sees an opportunity to ask this very young and impressionable woman to help her husband out once she passes away, to move on with his life. It's a very emotional and I think that a little bit of a triggering read because again it deals heavily with grief, but also very interestingly, I think a lot of people have issues with it because of the way that the relationship after the wife passes develops. But for me, it just made sense. I found that it made sense. So for me, it was a very special book and I definitely would recommend it. The next book is I Married the Lizard Man by Regine Abel. I've mentioned this book quite a lot in the past 3 months since I've read it. It's a monster alien romance and it's such a short but such a sweet and such a well-crafted book. I haven't read very many monster or alien romances, but this one just left a very positive impression on me. It left me smiling, it left me happy, and I was just genuinely very impressed and surprised by this book, so I couldn't not include it on this list as well. And I definitely recommend it if you haven't dipped your toes into this genre. I definitely recommend it as a starter book. This year I've had such a luck with foodie romances. I've read a couple and I've absolutely ate them up. I've loved them. So I'm going to show you one more that is an absolute favorite of mine of this year, and that is Make It Sweet by Kristen Callahan. This book deals with two characters who are kind of down on their luck when it comes to their careers. The hero is a hockey player who has lost his job essentially because of his injury. And then the heroine is a very successful actress in this kind of a very hyped up show, but she's also laid off. So both of them go to this mansion. They're both of them invited to this mansion to kind of lick their wounds and find out what they're going to do with their life. And that's where they meet, and he's actually secretly a baker. And he bakes a lot of, or at least a cook. He cooks a lot of things for her. She doesn't know that he is the one cooking these things for her. She is very much a sunshiny character. He's very much a grump. And this book also deals with representation for migraines, which I absolutely appreciated and loved. And it was such a good read. I had so much fun with it, and I definitely recommend it. I've just left the best for last because Caught Up by Liz Stamford has absolutely taken over my mind and my time when it comes to thinking about my favorite books. This book is such a special read for me. I think I've been thinking about why this one is a favorite of mine over The Right Move, because The Right Move had the top spot before I read this one. And I think it's because The Right Move really focuses on the relationship between Indy and Ryan. Well, in this one, I just felt connected not only to the main characters, Kai and Miller, but also to the whole setting within the book. So all of the characters who all play a very central part within their relationship, but also the setting. So there is a very strong found family kind of aspect within the book that left an impression on me, and I cried within this book as well, while I didn't cry with The Right Move. So this one was definitely the top spot for me. The book centers on, again, it's a foodie romance, this one, and a sports romance as well. The hero, Kai, he's a baseball player, and she is his coach's daughter. She's also a Michelin pastry chef. And she is kind of down on her luck when it comes to her career, not because she's not getting jobs, but because she feels uninspired. So she decides to take the summer off, and her dad convinces her to be Kai's son's nanny, because Kai has recently become a father. He was dealing with an accidental pregnancy. The mother kind of left him hanging, and he's a single dad now, so he needs the best nanny for his son. His son was not able to connect with any of the nannies before, so he's desperately needing someone to help him out, and his son immediately takes kind of a liking, even loving to Miller. So she decides to help him out. They have an amazing banter together, amazing chemistry. She is so forward in her advances towards him as well. And I just absolutely love this book. There's not enough words to describe how special it was to me, how much I loved it, and how much I'm looking forward to the next 2 books within this series. Liz Tomford has definitely become a favorite author of mine, and I'm going to read anything that she releases. And if you haven't picked this one up, this one is even better than The Right Move, trust me. So my friends, this is it. These were my favorite reads of 2023. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of the books and whether you enjoyed them as much as I did. Let me know what your favorites were of this year. Maybe I should pick them up as well. I hope you enjoy your day ahead, and I hope to see you soon as well. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.